Women's sports are gaining unprecedented momentum, but sustained investment is the key to long-term success. And investment into women's sports teams and the growth of teams across leagues from basketball to soccer to softball continues to build. So here with me to discuss the landscape of this investment and the framework from which we all can understand the shift, the opportunities, and where we're going are the following. Monika Mantilla, the co-founder and CEO of Altura Capital. Welcome, Monika.
Thank you, Gwen.
And Ann Sempowski Ward, who's the chairwoman of the board of Curio Brands and the owner of the Chicago Sky and 2 USL teams. Welcome, Ann.
Thank you, Gwen. Glad to be here.
I'm going to ask each of you in 30 seconds or less to tell us your connection to women's sports. What led you to be an investor, in this space? And again, what specifically have you invested in? Ann, do you want to start?
Sure. Well, I'll start by saying, a lot of people ask me, were you an athlete when you were younger? And the answer is yes, I was. I played basketball. That was my sport of choice in high school. But I stopped at high school for many reasons. But I've always been a sports advocate and certainly have had a desire to be involved in sports. I kind of fell into sports ownership, and we can talk more about that as needed. But today, I'm really, really proud to be a minority owner of the Chicago Sky, WNBA Chicago Sky, which is just an amazing, amazing story of how that both came to be and where we're headed. And then have most recently been jumped into the world of soccer, U.S. soccer as we know it, through the USL league, and have thought about supporting 2 teams. And the reason that I really think about investing is really simple. Number one, there is so much opportunity. And I don't mean opportunity in the sense of just capitalizing on something. I mean the ability to support women in sport. And support looks like a lot of things, but I think this is really crucial, the idea of supporting women in sport. And then the second thing is we've been woefully underinvested in for so long. And so this ability to help us really move forward in the world as women in sport and the value that we bring not only to other women and that piece, but the ability to actually transform the world through sport and women in sport.
So, I've been an investor for now, I think probably 30 years, and we started Altura 20 years ago, and we focused on 4 verticals. 2 of them have a lot to do and intersect with sports. One is consumer, and the other one is healthcare, which we've expanded to the idea of health, wellness and healthcare. So I really believe in the power of sports to galvanize and inspire generations. And in women's sports, we have this unique opportunity to build assets that go beyond entertainment to truly, uplift women and girls and create fantastic business models that also represent an opportunity to build wealth, to create winning teams, to build culture and create role models for our women. We are an impact investor, and we're always looking for above market returns, but also societal change. And I think that we're 100 years behind when it comes to women's sports. And there is a remarkable opportunity in the market today to be able to create those business models that are not only going to be incredibly valuable assets and assets that are going to be sold for multiple billions of dollars in the future, or kept in the as part of the assets of the owners for many decades, that can appreciate immensely. But it's also an opportunity to build community and to create role models. Like if we think Miami's a town, is my town where I live, And there's more than 200,000 girls in the Miami-Dade school system and Miami-Dade College that could benefit from, these types of new spaces and sports teams and entertainment and cultural and educational activities. And so I'm fascinated by it. And that's why at Altura, we decided to have women sports and in sports in general and wellness in general as areas and segments where we really wanted to look for opportunities. And we're in the middle of it. It's sort of something new. And in 20 years in existence, it really was 2 years ago, probably, when we started to go deeper into this segment. But we really are big believers in it because we think there's just incredible opportunities of value creation and cultural change.
But I want to push you both on that opportunity, because Monica, you brought it up. This is more than just, you talked about community building. Where are those opportunities and how will this change the engagement? Because what we see on the other side is that the number of viewers for the WNBA and women's basketball specifically has been rising and rising and rising. So I want to pick up again on where are those opportunities? How is the ecosystem shifting and where can we be going?
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in here. I think there's so much that women's sport brings to the forefront. And let me just say for a moment, you talked about viewership and basketball and the WNBA and who's watching it. And the beauty of that is it's not just women watching other women. Yes, it is young girls, and yes, it is women, but it is also men who love the sport and want to see an amazing product on the floor, as we call it in the world of sports. And they want to see that, and they want to actually be a part of that. And so this ability, or maybe this preconceived notion that I think has been around for many decades, that only women want to watch women play sports, has proven to not be true. And so you can look at that in who's going, who's watching, who's supporting. And so I think that's the nugget around a thesis or a hypothesis that people had of why this was a small opportunity in the past and how it's different today. So I just want to frame that up. And that unto itself creates this whole concept of how we're able to transform, because when you move past that as an assumption, then you start to get to, well, the world of people who want to see women play sports is way bigger than we've ever talked about. And so that creates audiences, it creates interest, it creates financial flow. Because what that also means is there are these same people who are watching who want to invest in. And investment comes in different ways. They want to buy season tickets to a particular team that they support, and that's part of their investment. They want to invest in their young daughters who have aspirations to play. And so they put them into, this happens a lot in the soccer world, but they put them into development. It happens in basketball too, through AAU and other things. But anyway, they put them into development programs that allow them to build their skills and to actually track them to potentially, who knows if they'll play at the professional level, but certainly at the collegiate level and potentially beyond. But those weren't things that were necessarily engines that were driving women in sport. And so that's an investment in women and in women in sport. And by the way, we know that the number of women who drop out of sports at a teenage age is vastly different than men. Men continue on, women drop out for a number of reasons, some of them physiological, but many of them is because they've just never seen a path that might be interesting for them, for whether it be career or just even to play. And then the third bucket, which is what, Monika and I do more on the professional level, is the idea of investing in women. And when I say investing in women, I mean at every place and space. So whether they are actually the athletes playing and how we pay them and pay them appropriately for what they're bringing to the sport, that's super important to me. Whether it is allowing and facilitating ability for women to have roles in front offices, so leadership, GMs, team presidents, other types of roles, really being the voice for that. That's another investment vehicle for us to invest in women and their future. And then the third piece is to invest in the teams or the leagues or the franchises as a whole, and saying, okay, how can we make sure that these sports are sustainable, they're viewable, and they have the right kind of funding over the long haul to make it so that we can do these other things, put women in leadership, have women be paid fairly, have everybody be a part of a sport or a series of sports. And so there's lots of ways to make that investment happen, but those are some of the key things. And then the last point I'll make is Monika talked about the impact on the community, because again, you can bring people together in the community. And these aren't just the young girls and their sports teams who come out to watch USL soccer games and do that as a part of a girl group or a team group. These are families who are coming together and coming to watch together. And so we're facilitating even family bonding and dads with daughters and moms with sons. I take my son to WNBA games because I want him to see women on the court in leadership supporting other women. So there's so much to this that is transformative. Those are just some of the things that I think about in my role and even my vision for getting involved in the way that I have.
I couldn't agree more with everything that Anne has described. And let me add, a couple of notions. One related to the thesis around investing, and then the leaders that we've had that are great examples of how change can come about. I think the challenge we had in the investment world is that they would tell us, well, there aren't any professional teams that are really being profitable. And part of it was they don't have the type of media advertising exposure, and so they're not in prime time. And so there's this vicious cycle that I truly believe has now been broken. And you are seeing now long-term patient capital going into the space because you're seeing that the media has been significantly growing, the exposure into prime time versus years ago where there wasn't. We all saw sports segments in every news where 95% was talking about the men and then just a little, if anything, in the women. Now you're seeing that parity. One example that I love is the role model that Andrea Brimmer, the CMO at Ally, she put out there this parity paradigm and this parity challenge for all corporations, where she said, you know what, if we as large corporations are investing in sports marketing, let's do 50% men and 50% women. And that was, a game changer. And then she worked with Disney, with CVS, and she got others to think into that. And then that ensured equal media spending, which is, then prime time opportunities. And so I think the ball is beginning to roll. There's no doubt in my mind. I also think, commissioners like Jessica Berman, what she's done with NWSL, it's amazing, right? In terms of, putting majority owners as women, lead coaches as women, elevating to what the point that we were discussing before, the well-being of all the team, the well-being of employees, really elevating the game in such a way that there was not only parity, but ability to do long-term investments, right? And so I think that the place is now ripe, and I would invite any women that is looking at doing a variety of investments that align with their mission to really look into investing in women's sports, because I think that those conditions that we were looking years ago are now there.
Well, I think Monika just pointed out this idea of continuity and sustainable investment. And I think when we look back 5 years from now, my hope is that we would see partners like Ally or Gainbridge or some of the folks who have doubled down on either a sport, a league, a team, some version thereof, or maybe even particular athletes. So you look at even the support of athletes and coming out with shoes and all those things, that those aren't just flash in the pan type activities, that they actually have multi-year, they have tentacles into a lot of ways where we are really driving the financial well-being of the women, the teams, the sports. And I feel like we should be looking back 5 years and identifying 5, 10, 20, 50, partners who really made a sustained commitment and not just a dip my toe in the water, decide what's cool this week, invest behind this particular athlete and then leave them behind, those types of things. I really want to see that, because that's the type of thing that will be both, like I said, transformative in allowing teams and athletes to continue on their journey. But this whole idea around the value of the eyeballs and the viewership and how much the networks are putting into it, media is a huge source of revenue for every professional sport. And we are still, I keep using this word, woefully underinvested in at the media level. There have been some record deals done. I mean, they're records because, of course, what was done before was just really bad, right? So you're going to break a record, but it's still underestimating the power of these sports and of these franchises and of these women and their ability to really to be a part of lives, to be a part of what we do on the weekends, to be a part of what we do on the weeknights. If you haven't been to a WNBA game, I just went last night. I happened to be today in Arizona, and I just went to a game. And it's funny because on a weeknight, it was packed. It was packed. And so the idea that, people are going on a school night to go see a WNBA game tells you everything you need to know. Like, people are invested, they're engaged, they're fully engaged. And so media needs to catch up. That's the bottom line. Media needs to catch up with that and make it easy for us to watch, make it easy for us to participate, and make it actually easy for people who don't live in cities where they can go on a school night to participate. Because that's the other piece of this. We kind of assume it's a local, okay, I'm going to support my local Chicago team or my local Miami team or my local LA team. There are viewers all over this country who don't have a local team who want to participate. And media is the sole way for them to participate, or to get a plane ticket and go to a game that they can do maybe once or twice a season. But media is the method for them to support teams when they live in a place that doesn't have a team on the ground in their community.
Love that. Love that. Monika, what's a great business strategy?
So the first thing we have to do is enlist every woman billionaire or multi-billionaire to please look at these opportunities. And I've talked to some that say, well, but I don't even know where to begin, and it's so difficult to buy a team. And I think that they need to pair with people like us who know where the opportunities are, that created the business models and all the pieces around the execution of those opportunities. Unfortunately, at least in the leagues where we're looking at, if you don't have that control owner, you can't do anything else. So that's a key component. Then there's what I would say everything else, right? Where there's the acquisition of the club, there's the acquisition or building of the stadium, and then there's the entertainment district, right? Those are like the three investment opportunities where there, in my estimation, plenty of capital and players that are avid to be investors. We've had opportunities where there's, it's like there's 3-4 more times investors than what there are opportunities. So I think that what we have to do ahead is continue to be very collaborative as an ecosystem, where we look at opportunities and we say, what are the key ingredients that need to come here? Do we have a great control owner that needs to be surrounded by the right solutions, or the other way around, and make sure that in each one of these opportunities, we collaborate to create the winning investment teams, because the winning investment team comes behind with the right investment strategy, the right management of the team, the right exposure to media, all these ingredients that make a successful business model. So I think that the power of collaboration in all the other industries where we work with, we have executive operating partners, advisors, and people that are helping us. And what we're trying to do in the sports world is something similar, right? To organize anyone interested. And then, for example, in the case of soccer and then WSL, there's a phenomenal opportunity that we have already aligned to bring Latin American players and to be able to connect the dynamics of Latin America soccer with U.S. soccer, which is still not there. Because if you see U.S. soccer, the participation of Hispanics is very low in team members, and yet audience has been growing and growing. So there's lots of opportunities there of synergies, regional and across investors. And so I'm super excited. For us, let me tell you, this is not my core business. My core business is to run Altura Capital and our private equity and private credit model. This is an investment thesis inside the world of healthcare and consumer and wellness. But I do believe it's one of those spaces that will continue to grow, and where we want to put a lot of research and ecosystem building, so that as we see opportunities come about, we can seize them.
It's working to build this together and across industries, right? As you pointed out, Monika, it's the team, but it's the community and business around it. It's the stadium. It's sort of the Kansas City Current model, right? There's a lot of people in
Beautiful
industry.
model.
So I want to thank you both as women business leaders for having this conversation about how this investment is going to be long-term sustainable, how it's going to be collaborative, and how we're going to seize the opportunity and moment. So thank you, Anne. Thank you, Monika, and thank you to the audience.